Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean, and those that are viewing online. Welcome to another edition of Strictly Legal here at WESN Content Capital, your premier station. I am your host, Rondell Donawa, and I am an attorney at law. And of course, this program gives you legal matters. And we will have a plethora of guests that will be with us as well, and you will have an opportunity to call in, express your views, as well as ask your questions according to the discussions. Now, you have heard so much about friendly societies, which are a bit ancient, right? Of course, this has been around since the 19th century. And we often hear about friendly societies, building societies, lodges, and we wonder what has become of them. Now, these are government regulated, as well as it can be considered an alternative to the banks. Now, to give us some insight as to what is the Friendly Society, I have with me a guest who is a registrar of the Friendly Societies and Building Societies Division of the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. And he is also the chairman of the Friendly Societies Advisory Council. And this is none other than Mr. Farai Hove Masaisai, who is an attorney at law. And he will be discussing the Friendly Society. But before we come to him, I just want to inform you guys that it is important that your legal matter matters. And of course, before we get to Mr. Masaisai, we will ask you to stay tuned after this break. And welcome back to Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. As I was speaking before the break, what is a friendly society and what is their legal status? And I have with me the registrar of the Friendly Societies, that is Mr. Farai Hove Masaisai, who is an attorney at law. Good morning, Mr. Masaisai.
Good morning, Mr. Donawa, and good morning to your viewers. And thank you for having me on your show this morning.
And thank you for coming to us at WESN Content Capital. And I'm sure this is not the first time we'll be seeing you, or the last time, sorry, we'll be seeing you here.
I hope so.
Yes?
I hope so.
Now, tell Trinidad and Tobago, what is a friendly society?
All right. So, I'm the registrar of friendly societies, lodges, and building societies. I am also the chairman of the Friendly Society Advisory Council. So fortunately or unfortunately for me, I hold two hats. That one hat is for policy in the form of the Advisory Council. It is a board appointed by the line minister, and I am the chairman of that board.
And that ministry is the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service.
So when I was first appointed in June of 2020, I fell under the Ministry of Labour. Obviously, with the elections of 2020, there was a realignment of the divisions, and now we fall under Youth Development and National Service. And it is good that we fall under that, because the nature of friendly societies now is that there is a sort of rejuvenation of friendly societies. Up to last week when the board met, we had a presentation from a new proposed friendly society. They call themselves the Young Leaders Friendly Society of Trinidad and Tobago. And so they made a proposal in terms of forming a new friendly society. So we have seen a resurgence in persons wanting to register their format, their business, or their group as a friendly society. But to answer your question now, Mr. Donawa, in terms of, can I call you Rondell?
Of course.
All right. So to answer your question, Rondell, in terms of what are friendly societies? Friendly societies are basically organizations that come together for a common goal. That common goal could be financial, it could be philanthropy, it could be nation building. All right, but there is that common goal. The history of friendly societies is that they were born out of emancipation.
Yes.
In those days, there weren't banks or even credit unions. So the friendly societies operated as a sort of thrift with emancipated slaves in terms of getting property ownership. There were some stringent laws in terms of the amount of land that someone could purchase, and therefore the friendly societies allowed persons to save monies and then purchase property. The friendly societies would purchase the properties and then sell on to their members.
Right, so now that the friendly societies are now regulated and supervised through the operations of the Societies Act.
Yes.
The Friendly Societies and the Building Societies Act.
Yes.
Now, is it that the Friendly Societies and the Building Societies are two separate entities?
Indeed. So the building societies are more closely aligned with banking services. So they offer mortgages, they offer loans to their members. Right now we have 2 registered building societies, the oldest being the Trinidad Building and Loans Association. That has been with us since the 19th century.
Right.
The act is actually a 1890 act.
Yes,
So,
that is what I was
yes,
looking at. So it's very archaic, actually.
It's a very old piece of legislation. And then we have the General Building and Loans Association. And these 2 entities, I do believe they have a very strong asset base. They have about 250 members between them. And they do offer not traditional, but mortgage banking.
Mortgage banking. So they are also regulated by the financial regulations.
Yes, the FIU does regulate them as well.
Does FIU regulate the friendly societies?
To a lesser extent.
To a lesser extent.
Because most friendly societies presently are more akin with charitable works as opposed to financial services.
Understood.
So what you would have found back in the day before there were CLICO, before there was Republic Bank, the friendly societies would offer the insurance policies, they'd offer death benefits, they'd offer a lot of financial type instruments to their members. They still do, and we still regulate that in the form of they would we would regulate their annual returns, as well as my department does yearly auditing of all friendly societies. Right now there are 47 registered friendly societies, and I would say probably about 40 of them do still offer financial services in the form of insurance policies. And so forth.
Now walk us through, if a group of persons, now I saw in the legislation, the Friendly Societies Act, where you need at least 35 members to incorporate a friendly society, but 7 executive members to write to the registrar.
Correct.
Of the intention to form the friendly society.
Yes.
Now, for someone who's listening or watching, walk us through this step as to how does one become registered? What is the process in registering a friendly society?
Okay, so we are regulated by an act. The act is the Friendly Societies Act of 1950.
1950, yes.
And it's a procedure set out in the act. So what you do, you have to send in your draft bylaws. We do have legal officers at the division. They can assist you in terms of drafting your bylaws to make sure that they are compliant with the act. The nature of the registration process is obviously you have to do a presentation to the board as well, because we have a board.
Yes.
The board is made up of senior members of lodges as well as friendly societies. They represent on the board. So it must be something that is in line with the whole ethos of each one helping one. I suppose that's
not a susu.
Well, it can be a regulated susu,
right.
because as I said before, friendly societies started off as something akin to susu. So you ever heard of susu lands?
Yes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of them.
Right, those would have been under friendly societies initially, and then it would have been sold on to the individual members. Because in those days, to own land, you had to purchase like 100 acres or 300 acres of land to be a landowner. So that's how they curtailed the ex-slaves from owning land. So hence came in the friendly societies so that they could pool their wealth and purchase it in a bulk and then sell on to their individual members. So I wouldn't say that you can't have a susu be in a friendly society, but it would be regulated
and not the bring to.
Correct.
Right.
So we have independent auditors that work with the division, and they attend to the different friendly societies. And if your books are not in order, the registrar has the power to deregister your society. And when you are deregistered, your assets are basically liquidated by the registrar. And,
So does the registrar of the Friendly Society as well regulate the asset base of the Friendly Societies? How do these Friendly Societies acquire assets?
No, they can. They can acquire assets just as a normal charity or a company acquires assets. So you can acquire assets in your own name. What you have to do is file your annual returns every year so that the registrar is aware of what assets you have and what liabilities you have. Obviously, if we see that you are doing something too risky, we are empowered by the Act to get involved. So we do get involved sometimes when there are disputes, because there are friendly societies and lodges who give loans to their members, and sometimes the members don't pay back. The registrar is seen as a sort of mediator to try to see how we can settle it amicably before anyone takes it to before the courts.
The court. And as you touch, I see you mention lodges. Does lodges fall under your purview as well?
Yes. So lodges do fall under the purview of the registrar. Now, lodges have a longer history in Trinidad than, say, friendly societies or building societies, and they are regulated by the Friendly Societies Act. And in terms of the policy development, they are members of lodges who are on the board as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And are friendly societies alternative to banking institutions, and credit unions? So like, say for instance, I want to save in a friendly society. Yeah. Can I as a member invest my monies in a friendly society versus a banking institution?
Yes, it happens all the time. There are means, it depends on which friendly society you want to join. Okay. So there are friendly societies that, there's a PTSC friendly society. Their membership base is the PTSC workers, all right? They give loans to their members, they give insurance policies to their members, they give debt benefits to their members. So you can invest, it is an alternative means to banking, but it is not as instantaneous as, say, banking or credit union. So it's more of a slow process of saving, slow and long term. And hence I think our oldest friendly society it's still operational. It's on Henry Street in Port of Spain, and I think they were formed in 1890. Okay. You know, and they still give loans to their members. Their members invest in their friendly societies. They have a lot of property all over Trinidad. So yes, in terms of an alternative to banking, friendly societies do provide that for members, strictly for members. And remember, it's not open to the public per se. So they would know who their membership base are.
So it's a secret society.
I wouldn't say secret, but they do cater specifically to their membership. So there are friendly societies that are strictly Muslim based. So it's based on Islamic principles and so forth, and the members recognize that, but it is beneficial to them. Okay. You know, and there are ones who are Catholic based, who are Anglican based, who are Pentecostal based. You know, so there's always a base from which they pull their membership from. So and that base brings in the commonality. So it's a strong network of individuals that come together for a greater purpose.
Right. And of course, we would have discussed earlier that the Act is quite archaic, which means that the Friendly Societies Act is of 1950, and the Building Societies Act is of 1890.
Yes.
Now, tell us what is the ministry, or by virtue of the government, what are they doing to amend the Friendly Societies Act? Is there an amendment that will take place? Because of course, when I look at the penalties and certain areas and clauses of the Act, when you have penalties of $25 and certain things like that, it does not really... Well,
I suppose the penalties are not so much the issue, because at the end of the day, the registrar has a lot of powers under the Act.
Yes.
All right. So I think what we are doing now in my division is that we are liaising with the Law Reform Commission in terms of bringing in some amendments, but the amendments would have to be based on consultation with our members.
And of course, I mean, in my opinion, I would think that one amendment can be to give the friendly and building societies more power and regulations to compete, like to be an alternative to a credit union, so that they'll be able to now loan members and have big asset base, so that they can compete and they can have their members benefit,
indeed,
right, as they would with the banking sector.
Well, I suppose that calls for a lot of consultation when you're talking about competing with the banking sector and that sort of thing.
Well, as an alternative, because as you know, in terms of the banks, of course, all of us have banking accounts.
Yes.
Now, it's very tedious when you want to open an account versus
Indeed.
a credit union.
Indeed.
And I'm sure with a friendly society, the documentation is less rigorous,
Yeah.
right? And this is why a lot of persons will move towards the friendly societies.
Correct. So at our last board meeting, we had an amalgamation of two friendly societies in the Maraval area. And one friendly society basically was aging. And they had another generation of persons in the Maraval community, Monkoko Road, that wanted to not allow the aging friendly society to be deregistered. So what the other, and I'd say a generation of my age group did, they formed a new friendly society and amalgamated it with the old friendly society, which allowed them to keep the asset base of the older friendly society.
And when you say deregister, you mean that what will happen to the asset base?
So if it's the unfortunate thing about deregistration is that the state takes over your assets in the form of the registrar, all right, and then we have to go through a very tedious process of liquidating the assets in accordance with the Act.
And then I read where it's distributed equally between all existing societies.
All the financial members that are alive at the time of liquidation. All right, so it's not a nice thing to have to liquidate, because the nature of these assets is that they have been accumulated over, in some cases, over a century. You know, so you wouldn't want to have to be selling all these assets, and so it's better to amalgamate. So I'm pushing more for amalgamation as opposed to liquidation, and for the formation of new societies. So every registrar would probably have their own policies, but my specific policy is to invite persons who are interested in so forming friendly societies, and the friendly societies can take the form of a charity. You don't need to give loans to your members. You could just be there wanting to do philanthropy and help in your community.
Yes.
We would welcome you. Just know that you have to adhere to regulations. All right, so it's not a free-for-all, so to speak. And even with the new NGO legislation that is going through now,
there is to register the NPOs.
There is a form of oversight. You know, so the oversight with friendly societies is basically the registrar's department. And
Farai, explain to the viewers exactly how can they contact the registrar department as well to register a friendly society, and how can they be able to go seamlessly through the process?
All right, so well, unfortunately, we don't have our own website at the moment, but you can get us through the Ministry of Youth and National Service. We are a department in that ministry. We do have as with all ministries, we have a permanent secretary. His name is Mr. Farouk Hussein, and we have a deputy permanent secretary. Her name is Miss Claire Williamson, I believe. But in any event, everything has to be done through the ministry.
Of course.
All right. So once you want to register, you could even send a letter to the registrar. And we can make an appointment, we can have a meeting, we can tell you what we are about, you can have a presentation to the board. There are friendly societies that are willing to mentor new friendly societies. It's something that you can get involved in if you want to get involved in. And I know we have just a very short time, and I want to digress a little bit. I know you are Learn Council, and of course on Monday there was the THA election, and there would have been a deadlock. Legally, in 1 minute, give us an opinion as to how can the state or how can Parliament move forward in terms of breaking this deadlock legally, if at all. I suppose, but in all things, there's always a way. There was the 1818 in 2001. So I suppose it will call for a very sober leadership and a form of mediation if they would like to get out of it amicably. Obviously, if there's not an amicable resolution, then they'd have to go back to the polls. I suppose the polls should be the last resort. You know, the two leaders should meet. They should discuss and see where they can find some commonality in terms of governing Tobago. but the people of Tobago have spoken, and it's 6 seats each.
And do you think that the president has any power in terms of what happened in 2000 with the 1818 deadlock to choose one side over the other?
Well, constitutionally, the president does not have that power.
But
in
they are
the House
governed
of
by
Assembly.
Should be House of Assembly Act.
That act. But if it is that they choose a mediator or arbitrator, then they will put their fate in that person's hands. The president can act as a mediator. She's well trained. But it is up to the leaders to decide. So there's always compromise. There's always room for compromise. I wear another hat as the president of the Elaconia Foundation for Young Professionals. And my legal affairs committee are doing some research around the issue. And some of the preliminary research showed that there was a tied presidency once in the United States.
That was in the 1800s.
1801.
Yes.
Know, so in 1801 there was, but someone crossed the floor. Unfortunately, that person was murdered afterwards. But that's how they dealt with things in 1801.
Let's hope that does not put in
so unless someone practically crosses the floor, because voting is by secret ballot, so only the clerks may know who crossed the floor.
Yes, I know. But Mr. Masaisai, Farai, thank you so much. I know the time has been really short. We have to come back. You never know what could happen. We could probably come and talk about the THA more next week, because I'm sure this is a live issue that will continue. And of course, guys, you are viewing Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. And we did have with us Mr. Farai Hove Masaisai, who is an attorney at law. He's also the registrar of the Friendly Societies and chairman of the Friendly Societies Council. And I want to thank you again, Mr. Masaisai. And of course, you can check out the Friendly Societies on the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service website. So, this is a wrap on our another episode. Thank you so much for viewing. And it will be remiss of me, not only as an attorney at law, but as a calypsonian as well, to express my condolences to the cultural fraternity on the passing of our beloved singing Sandra Devines Millington. She has contributed significantly to our art form and to the young persons in our society, including me. And I would like to express my sincere condolences to her. This is indeed a shock to our community. And with that being said, thank you so much for viewing. And next week will be another exciting episode of Strictly Legal on Thursdays from 10 to 10:30 a.m. God bless and have a good day.